Welcome back to SuperString. Today activity, thrill ride film from 2009. Named Accident. Spoiler ahead. Look out and fare thee well. Around midnight, a young woman crashes her vehicle and quickly bites the dust before the vehicle bursts into flames. Her watch takes off her wrist and breaks when it raises a ruckus around town. In a little while, a man ends up trapped in rush hour gridlock when the lady stops her vehicle in the road since she has a punctured tire. Since the street is impeded now, the man cruises all over her to turn the corner and nearly runs into a truck driven by Uncle. By evading the truck, he winds up driving onto the walkway and the pennant from a store falls on top of his windshield. The man passes on the vehicle to eliminate the pennant, yet by pulling it, it shakes a wire connected to a window, which had been recently pre-arranged by Greasy. The window dampens and every one of the shards fall on top of the man, killing him. Individuals rapidly call the police, who come to beware of him while sitting tight for the emergency vehicle. Among the inquisitive group, the mind is ensuring everything is working out as expected. It turns out this hadn't been a mishap, it was a homicide arranged by his group, which makes elaborate plans to make their kills seem to be mishaps. The police assist Lady with driving away her vehicle to leave, and Uncle leaves too in his truck subsequent to dropping his cigarette on the ground. Mind sees this and gets it not to leave any proof at the location of the crime. In the interim, Greasy goes to a parking area close by where he utilizes inflatables to conceal the surveillance camera, then, at that point, he moves toward the vehicle where their client passed on their installment to get the envelope with the money. Minutes after the fact, Lady and Uncle are at their refuge watching the news. The man they killed was a set of 3 group chief, and there was no question it had been a mishap. Lady's stressed over Uncle's mix-up of dropping his cigarette, yet when Greasy comes over, Uncle lies and says he got the cigarette. Cerebrum is hearing this through secret receivers he introduced in the room a very long time prior, so when he comes over as well, he chastens Uncle for lying and uncovers the cigarette he had gotten. He doesn't know whether he can continue to trust Uncle, and keeping in mind that Uncle pitches a fit, Cerebrum reminds everybody that missteps like this endanger their security. Not having any desire to lose this employment, Uncle reports he's stopping smoking for good. After their gathering is finished, Mind returns home through 3 distinct methods for transport to lose anybody that might follow him. At the point when he shows up at his loft, he ensures there's a leaf stuck on the entryway, which he invests there each energy he leaves, so that's what he knows whether it's fallen, it implies somebody broke in. Subsequent to placing the cash in the protected, he makes light of a music and lies in bed to imagine his better half who passed on in the auto collision is still there with him. In a little while, Mr. Wong is reached by Greasy to get directions on the most proficient method to enlist them for their next killing. He should get a pack from a garbage bin and put his effects in them, then he should enter an old structure and leave the sack outside the lift while he goes to the 6th floor. Greasy gets the sack and takes it with him on the transport where he meets Mind, and they glance through the things together. Wong believes them should kill his wheelchair-bound father. For 2 or 3 days, Mind follows father and child to get familiar with their daily schedule by heart, then, at that point, the group concentrates on the area to concoct thoughts for mishaps. Their most ideal choice is to utilize the power that drives the nearby cable car, since Mind will not consider a fender bender as a choice. Eventually, they think of balancing a wire from the cable car link that will connect with the objective when he crosses the tracks. To make it direct power, however, they'll need to execute the arrangement during a stormy evening. To balance such wire on the link, the group works on flying kites in the downpour. They trust that the figure will foresee a blustery evening, and when it at last works out, everybody gets ready. Lady will fly the kite, Uncle professes to be a road toy merchant that ends up having inflatables, and Greasy will drive a bike while claiming to do a few conveyances. Sadly, it doesn't rain the second Wong and his dad cross the tracks, so they need to cut short the arrangement for that day. The weather conditions is by all accounts taunting them since it starts pouring when they leave, and the accompanying not many attempts additionally fizzle since downpour never falls on time. One evening, while at the same time pausing, Lady and Greasy notification Uncle's breaking his commitment and smoking a cigarette. They chide him for it, helping him to remember his stopping a few days prior, yet he starts giving indications of Alzheimer's, the point at which he doesn't recollect his commitment. Lady and Greasy figure they ought to cut short the mission since Uncle is clearly not great, however at that point, it begins pouring. Not having any desire to botch the opportunity they've been hanging tight for such a long time, and since Uncle swears he's fine, Cerebrum orders them to execute the arrangement. To begin with, Lady allows the kite to tangle around the cable car link. Then, at that point, Uncle should deliver the inflatables to cover the surveillance camera, however he neglects. Cerebrum tells Greasy that since it's dull and pouring, They can face the challenge in any case, so Greasy pushes through with his bike and drives close to Wong to make him excursion and fall. This makes him let go of his dad's wheelchair, and the elderly person slips once more into the cable car tracks, where he is moved by the kite wire and in a split second shocked. Subsequently, Mind goes to search for Uncle, and in his rush, he knocks against an irregular individual. While avoiding them, he ventures onto the road without seeing the approaching transport. In his franticness to try not to hit Cerebrum, the transport driver turns the vehicle and winds up hitting Greasy rather prior to running into a vehicle. Cerebrum rushes to keep an eye on Greasy, who contemplates whether this really was a mishap prior to kicking the bucket. All having the opportunity to squander, Cerebrum takes Greasy's own effects and takes off before the police can track down him. At the point when Mind shows up at his loft later, he finds the leaf on the floor, demonstrating somebody has broken in. In any case, the police are now there on the grounds that a neighbor saw the entryway and called them. The condo is a wreck and all the cash is absent from the safe, however Cerebrum is feeling significantly better to see basically they didn't take his significant other's watch. Prior to leaving, the police let him know that different pads in the structure have additionally been broken into, however Cerebrum actually accepts this was no mishap. Somebody clearly is pursuing the group. Feeling incredibly neurotic, he eliminates the SIM card from his telephone not to be followed, baffling Lady, since now she can't contact him. A while later, Cerebrum goes to remain at one more condo that he had leased for crises like this one. The television programs the police have concluded the transport crash was a mishap and the driver is as yet oblivious. The following day, Cerebrum starts watching the roads from a neglected structure. Uncle has neglected they've proactively followed through with the task, so he's claiming to be the toy vendor once more, and Wong is going to an insurance agency's office to see his representative Chan. The two men contend unequivocally about a document, which leaves Wong crying and Chan making a serious-looking call. Subsequently, Cerebrum goes to eat at a nearby inexpensive food joint and inadvertently runs over Lady, who communicates her concerns. Cerebrum won't converse with her and leaves when she opens her mouth. At night, Cerebrum visits Uncle, who has begun to take pills, and lets him know this plan has been cut off. The following morning, Mind takes him to another of his numerous condos, where he needs to prevent Uncle from taking his pills 2 times. Uncle concedes he can't remember when he started getting so neglectful, and he doesn't recollect the specific condition of his well-being. He recalls Mind, however, and that his significant other kicked the bucket in light of a quickly moving vehicle. Right up to the present day, Cerebrum actually imagines that the mishap had been an arrangement that ought to have been killed him all things considered, and Uncle is the one in particular that trusts him. To protect Uncle occupied and Mind makes up another mission and advises him to remain in that loft, watching out for the happenings of the road under his window until new orders. Then, Cerebrum creatures chasing after Chan, getting dubious when he hears him chatting on the telephone on the transport, saying it's been finished. At home, he is by all accounts carrying on with a standard typical life, and Cerebrum can't resist the urge to see that the condo under Chan's is up for lease. The following day, Mind changes his looks and leases the unfilled condo. He introduces a lot of mirrors that will permit him to constantly watch out for the entryway, then, at that point, breaks into Chan's condo to research the man further. To begin with, he really takes a look at every one of the individual things for any hints, don't tracking down anything. Then he introduces a few secret mouthpieces prior to getting back to his own, put to draw Chan's floor anticipate his roof. From that point on, Mind keeps a nearby reconnaissance on Chan, taking notes of each and every discussion he hears. The main individual he at times converses with is Uncle, who continues to call him to let him know he's disregarded the inflatables. Whenever Chan leaves for work, Cerebrum follows him and spies on him at the workplace. One morning, Wong has one more discussion with Chan, looking totally upset. In the wake of declining to give Chan a document, Wong goes to the standard parking area to leave the installment in a vehicle. Cerebrum's shocked to track down there's an inflatable as of now they're covering the surveillance camera and chooses to pause, which permits him to find Lady is coming to get the envelope. Mind calls her after she gets in her own vehicle, and she makes sense if she's presently responsible for getting installments. Greasy had educated her regarding this client, which Cerebrum won't accept in light of the fact that Greasy shouldn't have shared that data with anybody in the group. Mind blames her for having followed Greasy before and of selling out him, requesting to realize who organized the transport crash. Lady calls him neurotic for thinking it was anything but a mishap, however Mind doesn't tune in and chooses to kill her. By driving the alarm, the tap on a close-by pipe takes off under the water tension and hits Lady on the head. Subsequent to wiping his fingerprints off the caution, Cerebrum actually looks at she's truly dead and removes the envelope with the money. On out of the structure, he sees Wong tumbling to the ground, quickly biting the dust. More dubious of the specialist currently, Cerebrum really buckles down on following his developments and discussions. One night, he hears Chan notice a client that he calls an elderly person who tumbled from a window on the subsequent floor. On an alternate evening, Mind needs to endure Chan and his sweetheart getting going, which makes him miss his significant other considerably more. A couple of days after the fact, Cerebrum hears Chan inform his mom on the telephone regarding Wong's odd case. Wong had to be sure met with Chan before he chose to end things for himself to give Chan his dad's passing testament, yet he had acted weird and continued to say he was grieved. A while later, somebody saw him take the lift to the rooftop, and Chan feels terrible for not having accompanied him out. After that piece of discussion, more days pass without anything invigorating occurring, and it's turned into a drag for Cerebrum to endure Chan's everyday practice. One evening, he gets a call from Uncle requesting help, and Mind hurries to see him, however when he arrives, it's past the point of no return. Uncle is on the ground, draining yet alive, and the police are at the condo glancing through an open window. Mind recalls Chan referencing a man falling on a subsequent floor, so he's certain now that Chan is behind this. He gets back to the loft and starts pulling the pages off his scratch pad to spread them out of control, while he takes notes on the walls as well, attempting to find the unaccounted for parties deficient. A couple of days after the fact, Chan thumps at Mind's entryway. Seeing him through the peephole, Cerebrum chooses to disregard him until he's gone. Then he focuses on following the commotions higher up, and he's occupied to such an extent that he doesn't see his landowner likewise coming over and nearly getting inside his loft to drop their agreement. Mind stops him without a moment to spare and vows to clean the composition on the walls to inspire him to leave. A short time later, he sees the landowner's developments through the window, finding that Chan is conversing with him about something serious. Things deteriorate when Cerebrum sees individuals checking the structure's windows, and a voice in the receivers says, "Here's another prior to eliminating them all." Hesitant to be gotten, Mind surges out of the loft and finds Chan, who simply apologizes prior to disappearing. Frantic for vengeance, Mind makes an arrangement to kill Chan. The thought is to mirror the sun's beams to dazzle a vehicle driver and make them run over Chan. Nonetheless, while getting his arrangement going, Mind gets a call from Uncle, making sense of he had bounced on the grounds that he took an excessive number of pills. At that point, the network programs a journalist meeting the transport driver that has at last awakened and is presently telling everybody his form of the occasions. It turns out it had been a mishap all things considered, and Uncle caused it, since he dropped the balls he had with him to imagine he was a toy dealer. Chan didn't have anything to do with it, Wong had bounced simply because he was overpowered by responsibility. As Cerebrum at last finds a sense of peace with the reality he had been off base, a sun-oriented obscure happens and obstructs the daylight, so the vehicle misses Chan. In any case, when the sun comes out once more, the beams get reflected onto an alternate vehicle. Mind hurries to stop it, and Chan remembers him when he sees him, yet Cerebrum isn't quickly enough, and the dazed vehicle kills Chan's better half. In a little while, Cerebrum cleans the loft to leave it for good. On out of the structure, Chan finds him and wounds him as he asks him for what reason Mind needed to hurt him like this. Cerebrum passes on gazing through the window and contemplating whether he'll at last rejoin with his significant other.